So I am joined today by Jo Richardson. Jo, thank you very much for giving up your time to do this and meet with me and to share your story.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. So before we get stuck into the questions, quick context for everybody who's listening or watching who isn't familiar with your background. So really senior commercial marketeer. In fact, you've done your exec MBA as well. And a nice spread actually in terms of the sectors that you've worked in. So you've done a mix of hospitality, tourism, FMCG in your earlier career. Most recently did a chief exec role, so a fantastic experience doing that full leadership role at a business called Go to Places, so one of the UK's leading destination management companies. And then I know you're going to give us a proper background, but earlier in career, FMCG, so Pernod Ricard, Bacardi, and then a lovely brand. So you did marketing director role for Raymond Blanc's Heartwood collection as well. And I don't know how you found the time for all of this, but you've got non-exec director roles too in the tourism sector. So you've got a really lovely breadth. And if our research is correct, you also did your coaching qualification during
Did.
lockdown.
I
What a
did.
great use of the time. So to top it all off, you're a qualified coach as well.
Thank you. Yes, that's a really good summary.
So yeah, really impressive background and looking forward to hearing your story and the question everyone wants to know as well. How did you get from sort of A to B? So could we start, please, if possible, with a bit of an insight into your career journey and any standout moments for you?
I think, as you said, I've been really lucky to work for some fantastic global brands, working in some really great organizations with lots of people that have really inspired me. I think a common thread with the decisions I've made about my career are taking opportunities that really stretch me, opportunities that I could learn and really develop. And I started my career on the international graduate programme of Scottish and Newcastle.
Mm.
And even at that early stage in my career, I made choices to take placements in countries that other graduates may not have chosen. So I chose to go to Lisbon and worked in the marketing team for the Sagres beer brand. I chose to go to Helsinki in the middle of winter and work in the wine team, looking at government monopoly tenders in a very restricted market in the Nordics. And as you said, I then went on to Pernod Ricard, working in brand management roles for Jameson Irish Whiskey, Malibu Coconut Rum, and as international regional manager for Western Europe, working with a number of Pernod Ricard markets. And then went on to Bacardi and global travel retail role across their whiskey portfolio. And I think that founding of my career working in those big international drinks companies really gave me such a powerful brand building foundation. How you create a global brand, how you localize a story, how you bring to life a brand in a market for a local team. And really, that was really exciting, but I knew I wanted more. I knew that I wanted to be closer to the action. And so I decided to do my executive MBA, as you said, at London Business School. And really, my motivation for that was that I wanted to expand my business knowledge. I wanted to get closer to that commerciality. I wanted to learn the language of the boardroom. And so I did that for 2 years, alongside taking on my first senior leadership role in hospitality. So I then spent 7 years as marketing director in the hospitality industry, and moving into hospitality made me much closer to the action. You could absolutely see the impact of your marketing strategies on a daily basis, looking at how that was driving footfall, driving loyalty, driving spend per head. And it was really exciting, particularly when I joined Raymond Blanc's Heartwood collection, as you said, private equity backed. It was a really transformative time for the business. They repositioned, grew the business by an additional 9 sites, grew the business from 0 to 175 bedrooms in a 12-month period. We won a European Drum Award for the rebrand of the business and the commercial impact. And that was really exciting to me. And I think it was that mixture of commerciality, inspiring others, brand building, being really focused on how you bring all of that together, that helped me land my first chief exec role, as you said, in tourism, where I was working for a membership organisation, Visit Kent and Visit Hertfordshire, so a mix of public and private sector organisations. And really my role there was to inspire lots of different stakeholders around a common goal. And that has really fueled my career. And as you said, looking for opportunities that stretch me has been a real kind of golden thread throughout.
It's a fascinating background. Something that kind of struck you. You said that in those earlier days, you sought out the opportunities in locations potentially that other people had discounted. I think that's not only really smart, but also gave you a really different experience. Was there anything that influenced you to do that? You would have been one of the few, not one of the many, choosing that route. And I have to say that's really impressive, especially at what would have been a young age as a relatively young grad. Was there something that kind of drove you down that route?
I studied languages, so I speak fluent French and Spanish, and I have always absolutely been obsessed with travel, different cultures, understanding why people do things the way that they do. And so to get the opportunity to experience that in a business context so early on in my career really combined that passion for working in different multinational teams, bringing my languages in, but also my curiosity about exploring and understanding why things might be different and why things are similar and how you kind of join those dots. So I think being a linguist and having all of that business experience has actually been a real superpower as I've continued on through my career and actually given me opportunities probably where others may not have had them, particularly when I took on international marketing and business development roles in Pernod Ricard and Bacardi. My languages were really key there.
Mm. Oh, excellent. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I know that throughout your career, you've really built upon your commercial marketing experience. That's kind of one of your core strengths. I'm really curious. We've seen so much change in the world of marketing in the last, even just in the last kind of 24 months. So how how are you sort of navigating this ever evolving marketing landscape that we've seen in recent times?
I think that passion for being curious and that spirit of exploration and adventure is something that I think really helps to navigate any times, really, because appreciating that change is relentless and getting excited about putting yourself out of your comfort zone is something that I think is a real asset, particularly as you drive your senior leadership career. I mean, there's obviously lots of discussion around AI and how that is
Mm.
reshaping the landscape, not just for marketing, but for anyone, even in your personal life. And I think that it's such an exciting opportunity to learn more, experiment, try, speak to your tech providers as to how they are integrating AI, have a look at what other sectors are doing in terms of transitioning to grow profitability. One of the things that I've been doing between jobs is actually volunteering for a lovely charity called Pets as Therapy with my Labrador. And we've been going into an NHS hospital for the last year, actually. So visiting patients, putting a smile on people's faces in very difficult circumstances sometimes. And you've got to be very resilient about what you might come across in a hospital environment. But actually, it's also given me the chance to understand a bit more about how tech is being used to improve the patient experience. There are volunteers that are really helping patients navigate a new digital landscape when they're looking at their appointments, but also how you recruit volunteers. So I think really, how to navigate a changing landscape is to be curious and learn from people and the world around you. And there are always opportunities to pick up snippets of insight that you could then take into whatever you do next.
I love that. So that's Pets as Therapy is the
Yeah, it's a
charity.
fantastic charity.
Oh, it sounds great. And your Labrador sounds like he's a lot better trained than my dog, that's for sure. I'm not sure they would be welcomed in a hospital environment. But what a fantastic thing to be doing. And you talk there about this constantly changing landscape. What about teams? Because I know that you are brilliant at leading teams. So how do you lead teams in this kind of transformational environment that we're living in?
Really believe in the power of unlocking people's potential and helping them think bigger. I've been really fortunate in my career and still have some really inspiring mentors. I've got a fantastic coach who really helps me really dig deep and understand what might be blocking my choices or what might be a restricting mindset and helps me work through that. And it was that real kind of love of helping others to develop in that way that did fuel me to do my executive coaching qualification, as you said, during the pandemic. I had lots of evenings and weekends on my own, as I'm sure many of us had. And I thought, right, I'm going to recycle that time. And it was fantastic because I did lots of coaching and I got lots of coaching back at a time when change was just, the given during the pandemic. So it really helped me during that time. But the reason that I did that was to become a better senior leader. I think inspiring your team and unlocking their potential is a really, really good way of developing talent, of helping to build a business, particularly in that job where I worked for Raymond Blanc's private equity hospitality business. I really went into a business that was fantastic, but wanted to scale fast. And with that, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. And so it was around how you inspire a fantastically loyal organization to think bigger, to think differently, to think about how you can move more quickly, but not lose your core essence and your core values of what's made you really fantastic up to then. So I think actually believing in the power of coaching, mentoring, developing talent is something that is a real superpower for senior leaders because that helps to unlock further opportunity in their teams, but also in the potential of what they're able to deliver.
And so you learned even more by doing your coaching qualification in terms of that's had an influence on how you would manage your own teams going forward.
Yeah, your own teams, but also how you manage other stakeholders, how you represent your function at a boardroom perspective. I've done a number of non-exec positions, as you said, and how you ask the right questions of other people in the room to get to the root of something that might help you move a business forward or move someone forward on their journey. So I really think that if anyone hasn't experienced the power of having a coach or a mentor, there are lots of initiatives that you can be part of, or even reach out to someone in your network. Because actually, when you're mentoring or coaching someone, you're also learning from those mentees and those people that you're coaching. It's a different perspective. So I think it is a real win-win relationship.
And may I just ask about your non-exec director roles, if I may, from the point of view that one of the common questions I get asked is, how do I get my first non-exec director role? And it's hard, let's be honest about it. It's what kind of catch-22. You need to get your first one almost to be considered for subsequent ones. Any hints or tips from how you managed to secure your first NED role, or anything that would be useful for anyone listening who's thinking, oh, this is the year for me to look at adding non-exec to my portfolio?
Well, I definitely am a real advocate of adding that to your portfolio. And I think that sometimes people think they don't have enough time to do something like that. But in reality, it probably doesn't take that much time, but actually it gives you so much in terms of broader perspective, network, experience, energy. I think that it's really important to look at your existing network, look at where you could add the most value, look at people that you've worked with before and where they may be a non-exec director to get some ideas about organizations that could be looking for your skills. There are obviously various organizations that promote non-exec roles, and non-exec roles for charity organisations or not-for-profits could be a really good way to start. For me, my non-exec roles were very much linked into tapping into my expertise in marketing and branding. So I was a non-exec on the board of Visit Kent. I was a non-exec at the Canterbury Business Improvement District. And both of those non-exec positions gave me the opportunity to work alongside really senior leaders from very many different organisations and sectors, but all with a common goal of driving tourism within a region or driving business growth in a city. And so it was a really fascinating way to actually bring my commercial marketing and branding experience together with people who had maybe more of an operations background, more of a talent development background. And by doing those roles, you're also building on your network for the future as well. So I think it's a really fantastic way to spend your time.
Oh, thanks, Jo. That's really helpful. I know there'll be a number of people who'll be like, oh, that's really, really good tips for them. Looking at the year ahead, kind of forward-facing thinking, what do you think might be some of the priorities for senior marketing leaders this year?
Well, we touched on AI earlier, and I think that will continue to be a buzzword because it is so critically important. One of the things that really struck me before Christmas, I went to a travel sector conference, and they were talking about the fact that 40% of UK consumers now use AI tools to inspire them about where to go on holiday, which probably isn't surprising. But when you think about businesses really focused on SEO and other acquisition channels, I think there will be a real race for businesses to get themselves referenced on LLMs. If you look at what ChatGPT and Booking.com are doing already this year, I think that's a really exciting area to kind of keep your eye on. But I think more broadly is probably something that we talked a lot about in the executive MBA, which was judgment. And I think that as a senior leader, the more senior you go, the more information that you are bombarded with, whether it's insight from your team, whether it's financial information, whether it's market data. And one of the most important things, I think, as a senior leader is using your judgment to decide on informed action based on the information you've got. So AI is going to be brilliant because it gives us quicker, better information. But ultimately, a senior leader's role is to decide what to do with that, if anything, and also how to bring people with you. If you think about the iceberg analogy, you've got the kind of senior leadership team at the top making decisions, but you have to bring those people with you. And as you said earlier, change is relentless, but you need to make sure that you're inspiring, getting people bought in, and bringing those people with you. Otherwise, whatever you want to do isn't going to work. So I think those tried and tested skills of senior leaders combined with really working out how to navigate today's landscape will be really important for this year.
And in terms of giving advice now, what would you share with people who are senior marketers who are setting their sights on director or chief of roles? If you think back to some of the great things that people may have shared with you as your career progressed, what would you share with others that may be helpful?
Well, I think something that's worked for me is to just invest in yourself relentlessly. I think the things that we've already talked about, so whether it is investing in learning, qualifications, whether it's investing in your time to take on non-exec roles, volunteering, I think all of those things really help you to build up that skill set, which helps with your judgment. It helps build your network. And if you surround yourself with opportunities and a tribe that really energize you, then energy is contagious. It kind of compounds, it builds momentum. And then you can put that energy back into your career hunt, your own network in giving back. And I've definitely seen the impact of being able to do that for me. And then that becomes a habit so that you're constantly looking to find ways to energize yourself, but then put that energy back into the people that are around you. And I've found that it opens up opportunities that you may not even really realize exist. And I think it's doing all of this before you're looking for that next opportunity so that you're ready for when that time comes.
That's marvelous advice. And finally, for everyone who listens to this, know that I talk a lot about positivity and mindset. I know you're very good at this. So I'm wondering whether you might be able to share really your kind of tips. You know, how do you maintain your own positive mindset and resilience, or how have you maintained that to date in your career?
I did see a really interesting thing on social media a week ago where someone was saying if you're driving and your road is blocked and you need to go somewhere else, your GPS does not say you've made the wrong choice or what on earth are you doing or goodness, everything you've done is wrong. It actually just waits for a while. It says recalibrating, and then it will just show you how you take a different path, but you end up in the same place that you wanted to get to. And I think that's a really interesting visual way to think about your career and your life, really, because things don't always go as planned, but they can go better than planned. And I think of my life in chapters, and each chapter has to have its own vision, and you realize that that's a really healthy way to think about how you move things forwards. And I think one of the ways that you can build resilience yourself is to adopt that 1% mindset. So, you know, if every day you can do something that moves you forwards 1% in a goal, and it doesn't need to be career goal, it could be a health goal or spending more time with family or friends or learning something new or doing a hobby. And when you feel that sense of momentum and that sense of development, you have this really powerful energy, which we've talked about energy quite a lot during this interview. And I just believe and have experienced that that is the energy that then brings you opportunities that you may not expect, open doors that you didn't know needed to be opened. And so I think being resilient is something you can really take control of, and it can be really tough. But there are lots of ways to feel successful and feel like you're moving forwards, and that will propel you throughout your next career move.
I couldn't agree more, especially with the 1% mindset. So I don't know if you've got it, but I've recently ordered to use this year the Diary of a CEO. Stephen Bartlett has a 1% diary. Have you seen them?
I think I'm going to have to add that to my January reading list.
Yeah. So it's a 1% diary, and it fundamentally enables you to break down your goals into bite-sized pieces to achieve that 1%. They're available for sale online, but it's specifically the Stephen Bartlett one, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. So you might want to treat yourself to one of those.
Amazing.
Jo, thank you. Brilliant answers. I know that they'll be really, really well received by our audience, and thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant. So that's a thanks to Jo. And if you would like to listen to the whole episode, it will be available on the Content Hub on our website. We've also got a new successful candidate newsletter that will be available on LinkedIn if you want to subscribe. And you will find all sorts of video content that's now being posted through Instagram as well. So any questions, do reach out to us. And Jo, thanks again for joining us today.
Thank you.